My mother looked at the family court clerk across a wood-paneled room and said, loud enough for everyone seated in that gallery to hear, "We have a right to know our grandchild. We are his family." 11 people heard that. The clerk. The bailiff. 3 other families waiting for their own hearings. My attorney, Linda Cho. And me. My name is Sarah Voss. I am 34 years old. This is the story of how my parents drove me out of their house on a February night, when I was 16, and 7 months pregnant, how I lost my son 4 weeks later, and how, 18 years after that night, they filed a petition for grandparents' visitation rights over a child who had lived for 11 days. The judge read their eviction notice into the record. What happened in that courtroom after she finished reading is the reason I'm telling this story now. I grew up in Harlan, Kentucky, in a white-clapboard house on a street where every lawn was kept and every curtain was the same shade of cream. My parents, Douglas and Patricia Voss, were church-going people in the specific way that means the church sees everything and the house sees nothing. My father drove a county surveyor's truck. My mother kept the house in a state of order that felt less like cleanliness and more like control. There were 3 children. My brother Marcus was the oldest by 6 years, and had always existed in a category of his own, the son, the heir to whatever my father considered worth inheriting. My sister Leanne was 2 years younger than me, and had inherited my mother's talent for being agreeable in ways that cost her nothing. I was the middle child, which in our house meant I was the one who noticed things without being asked, and was never thanked for it. The house smelled like pine sol and my mother's instant coffee, and on Sundays, the particular staleness of a Bible left closed all week. My bedroom window faced the neighbor's oak tree, which I knew better than I knew most of the people in my family. I was 16 in the winter of 2008. I had been seeing a boy named Caleb Reyes for 7 months. He was 17. He was kind in the careless way that 17-year-olds are kind, which is to say he meant well, and was not equipped for what happened next. Neither was I. Neither, it turned out, was anyone. I found out I was pregnant in October. I told my mother first. She sat very still at the kitchen table, and then she asked me how I could have done this to the family. She did not ask how I was. I told my father that same evening. He stood in the doorway of the living room, and looked at me for a long moment and said, "You've made your choice. Now you'll live with it." I did not yet know what living with it would mean. The first moment came 3 days after I told them, at Sunday dinner, with my grandmother present. My mother set a plate in front of everyone except me and then said, as she sat down, "Sarah's situation is her own to manage. We'll be praying for clarity." My grandmother looked at me. I looked at my water glass. I ate after everyone else had been served. I said nothing. The second moment came in November, at a parent-teacher conference my mother attended. My English teacher, Mrs. Aldridge, had been quietly supportive, and had arranged for me to submit work remotely for the last trimester. My mother told her, in the hallway outside the classroom where I was waiting, "We appreciate the accommodation, but Sarah needs to understand that her decisions have consequences for everyone." Mrs. Aldridge looked uncomfortable. My mother straightened her coat and walked to the car. She did not look back at me. I followed her. I did not speak on the drive home. The third moment came in December. Caleb's mother, a woman named Rosa Reyes, called our house to discuss whether the families might meet. My father answered the phone. The conversation lasted less than 4 minutes. Afterward, he came into the kitchen where I was doing homework and said, "That family is not coming into this house. And neither is whatever you're planning to bring into it." He said it the way he said grace before dinner. Evenly. Without looking up. I closed my textbook. I went to my room. I sat on the floor next to the radiator, which ticked when it was cold, and I thought about the word whatever. The fourth moment was February 4th. I was 7 months pregnant, and had come home from school to find 2 boxes in the hallway. My clothes were in one. My school things were in the other. My mother was in the kitchen. My father was in the living room with the television on. My mother came to the hallway doorway and said, "You can stay with your aunt in Pineville, or you can find somewhere else. We've spoken to Pastor Reed. This is the decision we've made." I looked at the boxes. I looked at her. "Was there anything else?" I said. She went back to the kitchen. I picked up both boxes, carried them to the front porch, and sat down on the cold wood planks and called Rosa Reyes from my cell phone. It was 17 degrees. The porch light was off. Rosa answered on the second ring. She drove 40 minutes to get me. I sat on that porch for all 40 of them. I did not go back inside for anything. I stayed with the Reyes family for the next 6 weeks. Rosa gave me her son Marcus's old room, he was away at college, and a quilt that smelled like cedar. I went to school. I ate dinner at their table. Rosa drove me to my prenatal appointments. My son was born on March 3, 2008. He weighed 5 pounds and 11 ounces. He had a small face and Caleb's dark hair. He lived for 11 days. The cause of death was a congenital heart defect that had not been detected prenatally, the kind that is sometimes found and sometimes not, the kind that is nobody's fault and also the worst thing that has ever happened to me. I named him Daniel. Rosa held my hand at the hospital. My parents did not come. I did not call them. I did not know what I would have said. I finished high school with Rosa's help and a lot of early mornings. I moved to Lexington at 19 for community college, then transferred to the University of Kentucky, where I completed a degree in social work in 2013. I built a life that was entirely my own, which meant it was built slowly, on almost nothing, and it held. I had not spoken to my parents in 11 years when I received, in January of 2026, a legal document forwarded through an old address. It was a petition for grandparents' visitation rights, filed in Harlan County Family Court. It named Daniel Caleb Reyes Voss as the subject. It listed my parents as petitioners. Daniel had been dead for 18 years. I sat at my kitchen table in Lexington and read the document twice. Then I called Linda Cho, a family law attorney I had met through my work in social services. Linda was methodical and did not perform outrage on behalf of her clients. She read the petition the same evening I forwarded it. She called me back in an hour. She said, "Sarah, do you have documentation of the night they removed you from the home?" I did. Rosa Reyes had kept everything. She had kept the note my mother had written and tucked into the second box 3 sentences long, informing me that my personal items had been packed, and that the decision was final. Rosa had kept it in a folder in her filing cabinet for 18 years because, she told me when I called her that night, she had always believed it would matter someday. Linda subpoenaed my parents' original court filing and identified 3 misrepresentations in the petition. It characterized my parents as having maintained a relationship with Daniel during his lifetime. It described their separation from him as involuntary. It omitted the date and circumstances of my removal from the family home. Linda filed a response on February 12. Attached to the response were Rosa's preserved copy of my mother's note, dated February 4, 2008. My hospital records showing that my parents were not listed as emergency contacts, and did not visit during Daniel's 11-day life. Rosa's own affidavit, notarized in January, stating the specific events of the night she retrieved me from the porch. The hearing was scheduled for March 18 in Harlan County Family Court, before Judge Constance Birch. The courtroom was small, as Harlan County courtrooms are. Wood paneling. Fluorescent light that buzzed faintly if you listened for it. My parents sat at the petitioner's table in their church clothes. My father's hands were flat on the table. My mother had her purse in her lap. Their attorney made an opening statement about the importance of family continuity and the bond between grandparents and grandchildren. He used the phrase Daniel's best interests twice. Linda let him finish. Then Linda stood and said, "Your Honor, Daniel Voss Reyes died on March 14, 2008, 11 days after his birth. He was never in the petitioner's care, and was never visited by the petitioners during his lifetime. We ask that the petition be dismissed, and that the court's record reflect the full circumstances of the petitioner's relationship to both Daniel and to my client. Judge Birch looked at the petition. Then she looked at my parents' attorney. Then she picked up the copy of my mother's note, which had been entered as Exhibit A, and she read it aloud. All 3 sentences. Into the record. The fluorescent light buzzed. My mother did not move. My father looked at the table. Judge Birch set the document down and said, "This petition is dismissed. The record will reflect Exhibits A through C in their entirety." She did not editorialize. She did not need to. I looked at my parents once, briefly, on the way out of the courtroom. I did not stop walking. I said one thing to Linda in the hallway. I said, "Thank you." She nodded. We walked to the parking lot. I drove home on the highway with the windows up and the radio off. My parents did not appeal. Their attorney filed no further motions. I received no communication from them in the weeks that followed. I did not expect any. Rosa called me the evening after the hearing. She cried a little, which she has earned the right to do. I told her that Exhibit A had done exactly what she had kept it to do. She said she had always known it would. I believe her. My brother Marcus sent an email 3 weeks later. He said he had not known about the petition until after it was filed. He said he was sorry for what happened in 2008. He said it simply, without conditions, and I wrote back and told him I appreciated it. That is where we are. It is not nothing. Leanne has not contacted me. I do not expect her to. My parents' church, I was told by a cousin, asked them to step back from their positions on 2 committees following the hearing. I did not pursue that information. It arrived and I noted it and moved on. I live in Lexington now. I have a good job. I have friends who know the whole story and several who know pieces of it. I have a photograph of Daniel on my desk, the one the hospital took, standard issue, in a small cardboard frame. He is wearing a white hospital blanket, and he looks like someone who would have had opinions about things. I lost my son. I lost my parents before I lost him, which meant I lost him without them, which is its own kind of weight. I lost 11 years of being the kind of daughter who might have been called in an emergency. What I gained is Rosa. And Linda Cho, who charges fairly and never once told me to let it go. And the knowledge that I kept going for 18 years and built something real, and that when they came back with a legal document and a fiction, I had the receipts. My mother kept a house so clean it felt like a warning. I kept a photograph and a phone number. That was the difference.